In this video, I'll be sharing with you some information about IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and the categories of disabilities that that specific act outlines. As I said, IDEA is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which actually is an amendment to the Education for All Handicapped Children Act that we talked about in the previous video about legislation. This act, or rather this amendment, had a profound effect on defining disabilities, because when servicing children, one of the most important things is to be able to classify them, to give them the most reasonable accommodations, and is now a part of the IEP and special education process that we'll be talking about later in the video about the SPED process. In IDEA, disabilities are categorized into 15 different categories, and I'll quickly name them off for you and then go back and go a little bit more in depth with autism, deaf blindness, which is simultaneously being deaf and blind, deafness, developmental delay, emotional disturbance, hearing impairment, intellectual disability, having multiple disabilities from different categories, orthopedic impairment, other health impairments, which are things like ADD, ADHD, heart problems, diabetes, stuff like that, specific learning disabilities such as dyslexia and developmental aphasia, speech or language impairment, traumatic brain injury, and visual impairment, which includes blindness. Of these categories, there are a few of them that are more common than others and pose a bigger issue when educating students in the special education process. One of those is autism, which falls on the autism spectrum. Also on the autism spectrum is Asperger's, and children with autism will have typically a tough time with abstract concepts and relating to people. Their level of interest and intelligence and things like that vary widely depending on the child. Some of them can speak sentences fluently, while others may not speak at all. They may have difficulty relating to parents, teachers, other students, and so that's a little bit about autism. One of the other ones I'd like to touch on is ADD and ADHD, which, if you're not familiar with those, stand for Attention Deficit Disorder and Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. With the ADHD, you obviously have the extra factor of the hyperactivity, and with these, children will typically have a lot of trouble focusing in class, staying on task, and it's issues with sensory input where they aren't able to properly filter all the different inputs and attacks on their senses as you and I may be able to. So those are a little bit about the different categories of disabilities, and later in the other video about the special education process, I'll tell you a little bit more about the criteria for being put into one of those categories and who makes that decision, who has input into that categorization if your child does undergo the special education process. So I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks.